Hello, and welcome to the NOTstalgia podcast.
A podcast where we discuss the retelling or continuation of pop culture favorites as seen through a queer and feminist lens.
My name is Eric Lefebvre.
And my name is Jessica Tercero.
And this week, it is a big holiday week for many people.
Oh,
Home
sorry.
Alone. Oh, yeah, no, Home
I
Alone.
thought you were like, it's a big... And
no,
anyways.
I was doing like the, hey, for people listening on their break, big holiday vibe. Because this is coming out the week of Christmas, right?
It is, yeah.
So
this is our Christmas episode.
This is the Christmas episode, and we did Home Alone, a classic Christmas film, and the very fun and very good remake, Home Sweet Home Alone.
But it's not even like a remake because it technically continues the story.
Yeah.
I feel like there should have been more sarcasm in your voice just now.
There should have.
I feel like if I knew nothing about...
you would assume it's good.
I would assume it's good from you just being so truthful and also such a good actor. Like you really did sell that.
So I really appreciate that. I am SAG eligible, so thank you. Secondarily, I was being sarcastic. My performance was too earnest, and I was not telling the truth. That was a lie. Not great. Not
just not great, but
actively
probably
not good. Unfortunately.
I didn't think, because last year our holiday film was Jingle All the Way, right? And so we had Jingle All the Way 2. And I was like, okay, there is absolutely no way that like we'll ever watch a movie as bad as that.
Jess.
And then we watched this movie and it's fucking up there.
You know
it's
how right before we
the
started
fuck
recording, I said I'm going to hold off on what I was about to say?
Uh-huh.
I was going to say this felt like Jingle All the Way 2.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
It truly
I was like,
felt...
is this me?
No,
usually we don't text each other throughout like whenever we're doing movies, or at least we try to and try not to, and we're like really good at it usually. But today, literally watching this like hour-and-a-half movie took me a good 4 fucking hours because it was just so cringeworthy and it was a really hard watch. And I just stopped. I would pause it and text Eric and Danny and just be like, oh my God, I can't. Oh my God. Blah! And I word vomited.
I don't want to give away too much about how we're feeling about the sequel remake continuation film.
Well, we can talk about our relationship to the Home Alone franchise real quick before we dip in.
That's a perfect thing to do.
So when I was a kid, I watched Home Alone and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. And then I remember... because then there was Home Alone 2, right? And then Home Alone 3 happened, and that's the one that Macaulay Culkin wasn't in. But my grandpa remembered that I liked it, so he took me. Remember when they probably still do this, but they had like a test audience for a movie? Mm-hmm. I was a test audience member for Home Alone 3.
Wow.
And it was really bad.
Did you tell them it was bad?
Even as a child, I like wrote down stuff like on like the little sheet that they gave you afterward. It was really cute.
Wow.
But yeah, Home Alone was just like, oh yeah, great. Home Alone, classic, staple, perfect. I had the biggest fucking crush on Macaulay Culkin. Mm-hmm. Like, not even joking. It started when I watched My Girl, and I was like, oh, fuck me, right?
Well, yeah.
And then, like, as I started consuming his works, I was like, oh my God. And now he's in Pizza Underground. So go me.
I mean, his work in Saved... Iconic.
Oh my God, so good. Did you know he also wrote a book, or he published his diaries?
Really?
Yeah, it's called Junior, and it's from...
That's intense.
And it's like scans of his diary pages, and it's like during this whole era, because like his dad was a shithead. His dad was a fucking asshole to him. So it's that whole era. I haven't read it in fucking 15 years.
That's so scary. I mean, yeah, I think Macaulay Culkin's cool.
It's a quick read too.
I love Macaulay Culkin in Saved. I think he's so good. I love Saved.
So fun.
Saved is such a funny movie. Mandy Moore absolutely crushing it.
Oh my God.
She's
so good.
Can I just do
Saved 2 so we can do it for the pod?
Is there? There might be a Saved 2.
Eric,
it's probably bad.
Eric,
I do want to do it.
You should write Saved 2.
Our
beloved Eric just won an award for
screenwriting.
I did. So,
I'm writing.
You should just write Saved 2 and make it happen.
I could. My history with Home Alone is pretty classic. It's pretty standard. I will say, I thought that the first and second Home Alones were the same exact film.
Oh,
as a
man.
As a child, neither of them resonated as individual films to me. I thought that the burglars were trying to break into the hotel for some reason, and I thought that like Tim Curry was like a delivery guy at the house. Like my brain saw both because like a lot of the same beats, a lot of the same like shtick.
Absolutely.
It's essentially the same movie, just like, oh no, we did it again. Not to say that it's bad, because I think they're both fantastic and I think the sequel's amazing, but I could not separate the two. So in my brain, they are meshed together, and even watching this for this one, I'm like, oh, they missed like the bird lady and like a couple other things, like the brick scene. Why was that not in here? Because my brain just said those things are in Home Alone, the collective film, which is 1 and 2 in my brain.
I love that.
Yeah. So should we just go for it and get the F into these movies on this beautiful holiday season?
Yes, we absolutely should.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
It's the night before the McAllisters leave the country for Christmas, and all through the house, every creature was stirring in this chaotic house. Okay, but really, there are 15 people in the house and everyone is being a jerk to Kevin, the littlest, most innocent, and incredibly gullible family member. Kevin is sent to sleep in the attic as punishment for literally nothing at all and wishes his family would disappear. Surprisingly, he wakes up to find his wish has come true. Ecstatic, he begins doing everything and anything he's ever wanted, like jumping on the bed with popcorn, watching violent movies, and going to the store to buy a toothbrush. He's stoked, but soon realizes his house has been targeted by 2 sneaky, leaky, wet bandits and hatches a plan to stop them.
Thousands of miles away, Kevin's mom realizes mid-flight that she left her son home alone and goes on an adventure of her own to get home as soon as possible that involves a few sleepless nights in the airport and a polka band with a moving truck. Meanwhile, Kevin successfully defends the McAllister house using a bunch of deadly booby traps and help from an old man he met in a church. The bandits get arrested, Kevin cleans the house, the McAllisters get home, and it was a very Merry Christmas indeed.
A very Merry Christmas indeed. So,
perfect movie. So fun.
So fun. First and foremost, I need to, as a collective and canon on the podcast, recognize that Catherine O'Hara is an absolute fucking star. Incredible. I know that this is not news. This is just a fact. Catherine O'Hara is a goddamn star, and she's perfect, and she's lovely, and she is wonderful. And I love Catherine O'Hara.
I love her so much, and I'm so glad that she got to be just 100% fully herself on Schitt's Creek. I mean, she made the whole fucking show.
Yeah, like, without a doubt.
Oh my God. Just like unhinged.
Everything she's
Catherine
in.
O'Hara, just incredible. Fucking goddess.
She is such a good comedian. She is so funny.
Truly.
Her timing is insane. She's amazing. I love Catherine O'Hara so very, very much.
I do, before we get into fun stuff and everything, I do want to say that I really fucking hate that the moral of the story is that you have to love your family, even though everybody's a shitbag to you.
It's true.
And it's okay to want family, but you need to recognize that your family will, in this instance, will never be who you want them to be or who you need them to be, right?
Yeah.
But just being oh, well, they're what I got, when they're literally the worst fucking people to you. Watching this intently and seeing everybody just be a fucking absolute monster to Kevin was so sad.
It really is. And I know that having that many kids, I'm sure, is just insane and difficult, but what the fuck? Everyone was such a dick to him for no reason.
He's just literally asking for help. He's the youngest one and nobody has time for him. And they're calling him all of these names because, he doesn't know how to pack a suitcase or something. And he's so gullible. So many times, the writing is so smart where somebody says something to him and he just kind of regurgitates it without thinking about it. And even with his actions throughout the movie, he's doing these things like putting on aftershave and going to get a toothbrush and stuff because that's what he thinks he needs to do, or that's what he's seen and witnessed happening. So he's decided that this is just how it is. This is just what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
And so he is so smart, and I love that the movie treats him like that, right? Where I mean, kids are incredibly smart, and they learn behaviors, and they learn from you, and they learn from the people that they're surrounded by. So I love how that was such an integral part of him and his character. But yeah, just everybody was a fucking asshole and literally blaming everything on him when he doesn't know how to pack a suitcase. He was literally just asking for help, and everybody just like, what were some of the insults that they used on him? Like
a waste of space, or no brain, or like, yeah. I love all of that world building in this family because comparatively, this is a well-written movie. It's written with intent. Everything means something in this movie. It's not random scenes. It is intentional. So like, for our lead, they're showing us, hey, this family kind of sucks. And they kind of treat this kid like crap. So the moment that he's like, I wish that my family didn't exist, we're like, yeah,
100%. Yeah,
I get that. From our perspective, the way that you exist in this family, I agree. Yeah. Our hero, we're behind the hero. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And then again, the moral, I also feel similarly in disagreement with, just in terms of family's all you need. I'm like, no, he's resilient and capable, and for being like a 6-year-old child, super autonomous. Like, he knows how to feed himself. He cut down his own tree. He set all those traps. He can protect himself.
So smart. And
he's so resilient.
Sadistic. I mean, if we're being real, like some of those like traps, I'm like, okay, Kevin, you have obviously thought about this for a minute and how you would get your revenge, and I love that for you.
And that's what I mean. He's so clearly the smartest and most capable of the children in the house, and he's one of the youngest. And it's so, to me, it's like, yeah, it's a great character, and I understand why we're supposed to be in his corner.
And that, like, you're right, that is so intentional, and I love that. Like, I mean, it super sucks for Kevin, so you're right, like, we feel for him right the fuck away.
Yeah.
But then, like, I just hate that at the end it's like, oh, whatever, they're family, it's fine, right? And like I was on board for everything. Like, you see the wealth and the privilege of this family, and just the fucking nonchalance where there's a cop literally in their house and everybody's just fucking walking by him like, oh, what the fuck ever. I don't know. Nobody's paying attention. I mean, we know that it's the wet bandit, right?
Yeah.
But like, to show that little regard for anyone or anything outside of each person themselves, like who they are, incredible. Like, great, this tells me everything I need to know about this family, and they're super shitty, and they don't want to help anybody, even if it's in their own family and in their own best interest. Great, perfect.
Even the way that they treat the pizza guy, where they just grab the pizzas like, oh, somebody else is going to pay you. No, somebody else has got it. Like, don't even worry. Somebody else is going to pay you. Hey, we're already eating. Why is that guy still here? Did he get paid? We're not doing money. Somebody else pay him. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, it's that much? It's like, yeah, it's like 16 people. No shit, it's that much.
Right.
You know, it's just, there's this level of...
And this is the 90s, too, when, like, you know, $12 for pizza was
kind of
gourmet
pricey.
Fucking pizza,
exactly.
right? I mean, this is a fucking rich family, but yeah.
Yeah. I do also like that all of the kids and most of the family feels very ACAB and a little dismissive. And also the way that cops are portrayed in here. It's
incredible.
With the most incompetence. Like, they're so wrapped up in bureaucracy that they don't even know how to help, and they wouldn't, even if they could help, where do they start? That's the whole point of cops. Like I love that. He's literally
eating and drips donut on, like, a fucking chunk of donut on the phone.
I'm like, yes, this is the right way to depict these people.
Yeah.
But I think from the perspective at the beginning, though, I did spend a little bit of time with it where they were like disregarding the cop. The cop's there trying to, like, whatever, he's fake, but even still. And I'm like, oh, this is more from a position of, like, he's there to protect their things, because cops only protect capital, and less, they're just like, oh yeah, it's fine, whatever, and less of a, we don't like cops, and more of a, oh, whatever, we're too rich to worry about cops.
I also did like that the bandits were clearly hitting other houses on the block, and the only person in town was the shoveler guy, and who clearly saw and heard stuff, right? But it was like, no, fuck these people.
Yeah.
Like, he did not call the cops. He did not try to bust them. He's just like, fuck them.
Which, to be fair, yeah, fuck all these rich families. Like, also, their kids are talking shit about me. I don't care. And the only time is when he's like, oh, he's by himself. This is a child.
Yeah.
He's in danger. I'm like, this is an actual issue, and I'm going to help.
And the worst Uncle Kevin. Uncle Kevin is just such a shitbag. Like, all of his lines were so awful and it was so perfect. And I was just like, oh, yes, fuck you. Like, he looks at Catherine O'Hara and he's just like, well, if it makes you feel any better, I forgot my reading glasses. What?
Yeah.
And you're like, child, reading glasses. You fucking, like, and just like everything out of his mouth like, is just such malice and such conceit. It's incredible. It's so good, his lines.
Like, they're in first class immediately. He just like throws his coat at the stewardess and is like, champagne's free, right? Free drinks? We're getting free drinks?
Fill it all the way up. All the way.
Yeah, all the way up. All the way. Do it. All the way up. And then they're like salt and peppering their food. And he like clinks them together and he's like, oh, is that real crystal? Put them in your purse. Put them in your purse. Take them. Put them in your purse.
When she's right there. Oh my God. And I feel like everybody in this was like born into money except Catherine O'Hara, because she's the only one that ever feels any sort of remorse at any point. Like, I think she's the one that like finally gets somebody to pay the pizza guy. And she's the one that they're in first class and they put all their kids in coach, which fuck you. I am not going to sit next to your unsupervised fucking child. Fuck you.
I literally thought about that too. It made me so mad. We're like, we deserve this. I'm like, and you she's like, rich assholes.
But she's the one that's like, I mean, I feel bad. We shouldn't be doing this. And she's the only one, like the dad is like, oh, well, the first flight is like on Friday. Well, I'll go. And she's like, fuck you. I'm sleeping here. I'm going to be here. And this is the day before like cell phones and stuff, right? So she is literally doing every fucking thing she can to get to her son, where the dad couldn't give a shit. So like, but yeah, so much of her character where she actually has emotions, because her husband the whole time is just fucking cool as a cucumber. Like, she was not born, like, she married into wealth. You know what I mean?
She did. And I mean, that's not to say she's without her faults, because like even the payphone situation where she's like, oh, I'm stealing this because my thing's more important than your thing, especially being an American abroad, like somebody who's visiting this other country, and you're just like, what? I can take it because you're not real. I'm more important. My thing is more important than your thing. And I know that it's like you left your kid, but at the end of the day, you left your kid.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But she is the most empathetic and is the most human, the most realistic, where like things matter to her in a way that things don't matter to the rest of the family. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously she's the only one who's like reactive and like really feels and like has intense intuition and feeling and emotion. She's the only one. Everyone else is like, yeah, whatever, we're fine. We have money. We're going to be okay.
And she's also the only one.
That's not important. What's important is my kid. What the fuck?
She's also the only one that has like any kind of responsibility, and we see that right the fuck away when she's like talking to her friend on the phone, and the dad comes in and he's like, did you buy me this shaver? Did you do this? Like, and he's like asking her, or like for all of these things, and people are like coming into her like, do you have one of those plugs? Do you have this? Do you have that? So like, she is clearly the most capable, and she like right off the bat they're telling us that, and then they're showing us that because again, she stays at the fucking airport, you know, good. And she's really willing to give away all of her wealth, all of her things. She's like, take everything, let me take your seat, let me do something.
It's great character development, and really true. It's like just the moment where he's like, did you get the adapter? And she's like, no, I have so much other shit to do. And he's like, how am I supposed to shave? He's like another kid to her. He's a child. He's so helpless, and she's like, I'm not gonna have a goatee, I don't care, that's such a non-issue, you're an adult, you're the dad, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so,
and her response to like Kevin too, when he's like, well, I hate you guys, blah blah blah, and she's like, well, maybe you should ask Santa for a new family. You know, but you're fucking sleeping in the attic because everybody's pissed at you. I was like,
that like, was too much.
That was a little bit much, girl. And especially after him just saying like, oh, I'm scared. This scares me. I'm terrified. And she's like, whatever.
Like the whatever of it. And then like when she's like, I can't believe we forgot him. I'm like, you're not nice to this boy. You're not nice to this kid. Mm-mm. Like, he's asking for help. He's asking for attention. I know you're stressed, but like, again, why are you bringing your 1,200 children on a family vacation to France? They're not going to remember this trip. Leave them at home.
And you also, like, you knew this was coming. You planned this. This kid didn't ask for this. You planned this. So you should have planned better and had him packed or done something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this was their failure, not his.
What else was I going to say about this? Oh, what's his name? The whole polka band.
So, do you know about the theory with that is that John Candy is the devil?
Because she says, "I'll sell my soul to the devil if I have to,"
hello.
and then he perks in.
Mm-hmm. And then she like sells her soul to the devil to go and do the thing or whatever. But then there's like Danny like expanded on it and was like, but what if the shovel guy is God, right? Or is like an angel? Because then the two the wet bandits are the demons trying to get into the house, but he is saved ultimately by like God and faith and all this. And so it's like,
is that real?
The John Candy thing is on the internet. I don't know how, like, if the other stuff is, but I mean, like, we were having a very good time running with this metaphor last year.
I love the meta. I love the idea. I love the conspiracy of it because it does make sense. Like his interest is only piqued the moment she says, "I'll sell my soul to the devil," and you see him in the background be like, "Oop, that's my name."
And then it sucked that her family arrived at the exact same time that she did, because then all of her effort and all of her everything is not rewarded. It's just kind of like, oh, silly mom, you should have just waited.
But it is an interesting conversation because that's one of my points too that I wanted to bring up. The idea that like wealth and privilege is always rewarded, like where she's tooth and nail empathy. I need to get there. I'll make it work no matter what. I'll figure it out. She's the only one who is like we're seeing as separate from the wealth and the privilege to some degree. Obviously, like not completely, but like she is out of that picture a little bit. She did all this work. She struggled. She sacrificed to get there. And even then, the people with the money who just waited did essentially no work and no stress, get there at the exact same time and are rewarded the very same way.
And everybody's reaction to seeing Kevin, except for her, is like, oh, whatever. Hey, Kev. Like, and she's like breaking down in tears. And she's like, I am so sorry. Like when she looks at him and says, I am so sorry. Merry Christmas, baby, blah, 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 all of that. You can tell that she loves him. And she's like, and when she's separated from the rest of the family and all of that wealth and stuff like that, she really does love and care about him. And then once everybody else comes in, then it's just back to the facade, right?
Yeah.
Where like there's then that distance again, and it's like, oh, well, it's cool you didn't burn down the house. Like, motherfucker, he has been alone for like, I think it was like 5 days. Like, because like I was trying to count. I for some reason in my brain I thought this was only like 2 days, but it's like at least 4 days that he's like doing this, and I'm like, holy shit! Like that's a long fucking time.
It's for sure. I think it's like about 4 full days.
Yeah,
I think so. But yeah, I like even the dad when the dad comes in the season, he's like, "Hey, sport" or whatever. It's like still this sort of like
it's very sterile.
It's very sterile. It's very emotionless. It's like this. It's like placating platitude or this like little title like, hey, bud, hey, sports, something that is like so devoid of intention and emotion. Your kid could be dead. And his first reaction to seeing his son is like, hey, champ, like, what? Like, no, it is a very interesting, seemingly intentional, like discussion of these characters and who Catherine O'Hara is in the world of wealth and privilege that is the McAllister household.
And how she changes in proximity to that.
Yeah. When her humanity is called into question, which is her leaving her kid, like how could she be such a bad person, such a bad mom, such a bad parent to do something like this? You see her true colors, and that's why we love her, Cyndi Lauper style. Open up. And we see her actually feel something and emote and become, this is the most important thing. Whereas literally everybody else is like, who cares? It's just Kevin. Who cares? Like, we're on vacation. Why do we care about him?
Have you tried calling the cops? Like, oh my God.
They couldn't give less of a shit about his life. And
they asked the cops to go look on him because he is an asset to them, right?
Yeah.
Because he is part of their property.
Yeah. Whereas to her, he is the world. He means everything, and his life could be in danger. So, of course, nothing else matters in that moment to her.
And I think them bonded as a pair, too, because they are the most real characters out of this entire film, right?
Yeah.
I think that also shows like not their bond was strong before, and then like even through this, like they are both the ones that are smart and trying to figure things out and trying to make it work and using what they can. I mean, like the kid, like he's so smart, right? He's walking around by himself. He goes grocery shopping. He has this cute little lie that he does, so cute. But then he also recognizes the bandit, right, as the cop that he saw earlier. And he's like, oh shit, this is fucking bad. I need to prepare. I need to do this. And he orchestrate like the contraptions that he comes up with as like a 5 or 8, however old he is, right? The things that he does like are just so out of the box and so intelligent and so smart. So even though he doesn't know how to pack a suitcase, like because this is what he's being told to do, when he's not told to behave in the construct of like his like wealthy family, right? When he is like just allowed to be himself and do what he needs to do to exist in the world, he does some incredible fucking things, you know?
And that's one of the big issues I have, like the contraptions and everything. It feels very of-world. Like he is established as a character who's curious. He asks a lot of questions. He's very nosy, which annoys a lot of his siblings and his parents. He's always inquisitive. He's always curious. He always wants to know and to learn. It makes sense that these like homemade contraptions with string, like Michael Jordan on the train set, and like these mannequins from the basement that he's like rigging up with this shitty string. These contraptions make sense versus the retelling film where some of these contraptions are just like high-tech gadgets that I'm like,
and like how did you
also
have a pool ball like shooter,
a t-shirt
how do you
gun.
have that?
Yeah, why do you have that? A, there's no reason, and B, who the fuck are you, kid? We know nothing about you because you've been in the movie for 2 seconds. Like, shut up.
Oh my God.
It's so
I'm
dumb.
so excited to talk about that.
It's bad. But in this one, it makes perfect sense for the character. Like, of course he would know this stuff. And he, like, that curiosity, it makes sense that he knows when the sticky bandits, or the wet bandits, rather. See, I get him confused because Sticky's the next one. The wet bandits. When the wet bandits nearly hit him with the van, he turns to see them, and that's the recognition of, fuck, that's the cop. It was fake. He's so smart, and he does not go home.
Yeah.
He goes straight to the church. He goes somewhere, a public building, a public space. He knows that they're following him. He knows the deception. He knows that this man is bad, and he immediately does the smartest possible thing in that scenario. And you're like, this kid is super smart. He's resilient. He gets it. He knows what he has to do. And even when they like come to break into the house, like, yeah, be small. Like, put on the big loud stuff and then aim the gun out the thing and shoot him in the balls. Like, yes, you're so on it. And then when they're persistent, he's like, okay, I have to get crazier. We're going to fuck with the doorknob. We're going to hit the steps. Chase me up the stairs, boys. Paint can, paint can, paint can.
Like, I mean, truly. And like, I love that. I think this film also does that really well, where a child is allowed to be both a child and capable and smart and intelligent, because like, I mean, so often when we see movies of like, you know, a kid that's left alone or whatever, I mean, especially like the next one, right? I'm going to fucking do all the things I want and all the things. I mean, he does that in this, but I'll talk about that next. But he's allowed to be intelligent and smart and capable, and not in a demeaning way, in a way that doesn't feel real or that doesn't feel like his idea. He doesn't have to be saved. He saved himself. I mean, except for like, you know, the shovel guy came in and like, you know, sure, great. Like he was there. But like, he is so smart and so capable. And I wish that we had more media for kids where it's like, yeah, you are smart and you are capable. Yeah. And if you find yourself in a situation, like, be smart about it. Think about this, you know, use your brain. Like, you don't have to just be like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening, you know.
Be considerate. Consider your surroundings, consider your options, consider the outcome. Consider yourself in the conversation. And it's not like he's without fault. I mean, he's the same kid who climbed up his brother's shelving unit and released the spider. Like, he's the same kid who destroyed shit because he thought he could climb it. He's still a kid doing kid things. But in moments of abject danger, he's smart enough to follow his instinct and consider the possible outcomes, which he does, and he succeeds. And it's so cool to see. Exactly. Like, 100%.
And it's also really interesting. His first reaction to the parents leaving is to fucking jump on the bed with the popcorn, and I'm like 100%. This is like eat the mountain of ice cream, watch the bad movies, do all of the things. I love this and I love this for you. But then when literally like after an afternoon of that, he's like, you know what? This is not responsible. I don't feel good. I don't feel good about this. Like that excessive amount of like wealth and privilege. He's just kind of like, no, I need to keep myself in check because this doesn't feel good, which is incredible because like most movies would be like, oh, this kid is just fucking jumping on the bed for like 10 days and like there's ice cream on the walls and there's shit on everywhere. But he cleans up his mess. He does all of that. Like he recognizes excess and he recognizes the need for moderation. And like, I'm so blown away by this fucking kid.
He's learning through action. He's doing it. And the whole thing too, where he's like, hey guys, I'm watching a bad movie. Hey guys, I'm eating too much sugar. Hey guys, I'm doing that thing. You can come out now. Like it's almost a performance, but it's a little, it's like he is learning his body. He's learning his environment through action. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important for kids. Like, let them learn that. Don't just be like, well, if you do this, blah, blah, blah. Like, not to say let them do dangerous shit, but like, what a good way for somebody to learn, like, oh, that doesn't feel nice for me. Like, this isn't something for me. I don't need that. Yeah. And I know that intrinsically because I've done it. I've experienced that thing. Oh, not my jam. Cool. I need to be responsible. I need to be resilient. I need to take care of myself. And then the next morning, he's like, I will go to the store. I will purchase goods with currency. I will shave and I will do it like a dad. I love it. And I love it.
That's something that nobody taught him how to do, but that's like learned behavior, like, you know, or witness behavior, right? And so those moments are just so important because this is how he thinks a dad acts. This is how he thinks an adult acts, right? And I mean, your kids are watching, right? They know, like they learn from everybody around them. And it is just so apparent in this, like, yeah, I love that extra detail so much.
He's discovering himself in such an earnest way. And I mean, that's so cool because in the same way that he's performing childishness and childhood, he starts performing adult behavior and adult life in the same sort of extreme way. And I think by the end of it, he finds a happy medium of like, obviously, he's still like 8 years old. He's still a child. But he is so clearly finding the boundaries of who he is just in the scope of who he's told to be. He's told to be this childish, rambunctious, over excess sugar child. He's also told to be this responsible big man adult figure like his dad. He's seeing the various versions of himself, again, through like media, through television, through the actions of his parents, and he's trying to find his place in that by performing these different versions of himself, which I think is so cool and is also super important for visibility in media. When you see yourself, you're allowed to play in the space of different versions of you, and you get to discover yourself that way.
Well, and exactly, because like also when he's like, you know, oh, you guys can come out, I'm eating all the ice cream, Buzz, I'm in your room, right? He is doing these things because he feels like he is still being perceived, right? So he feels like this is what is expected of him, and this is his place, and this is what he needs to do. Once he realizes that he is not being perceived, then he's able to break away from that and be like, oh, do I really want to do this? No. What is this? Playboy? Gross, right?
Yeah, like this is something I'm supposed to be getting into, but he's like, I am actually not interested in that. That's not something that I want right now. Cool.
And he's also like helping that old man work through his shit, right? So like he's facing his fears too, right? So he faced the furnace, he like, you know, then the murderer like comes and sit next to him in church, and he's like, he realizes, oh, it's just a person, right? So these biases that others put in his head, he's learning how those aren't necessarily true, right? And so he's breaking that down and able to move past that because he's interacting with that and he's allowing himself to be in these same spaces with it. He talks to the shoveler guy, and the shoveler guy is like, you know, like, hey, I mean, you could just say hi. And he's like, oh, okay. And they have this like deep conversation about family and about like not leaving things unsaid and not being too hard-headed and all of this. And it's so earnest and it's so sweet. And I also just love that they're these two, you know, they're two people that are at like wildly different ages, but they are allowing, like, opening themselves up and allowing themselves to learn from each other in this moment. Just so great. So cute.
It's so great. It's such an impressive movie. I mean, as a kid, I think it's a good movie, obviously, but as an adult consuming it for the base story, for the character development, for everything that it's trying to say, all the shit that I missed as a kid, I'm like, this is a really good movie. It's well written. It's well intentioned.
Yeah.
It's well shot. It's fun. It's interesting. It's cool. It's a good movie.
It's much better than I remembered it being. Like,
Same.
It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. But then, like, looking at it from this perspective and, like, diving deep into it, I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is really cool. I mean, it does have fat jokes, and it does make fun of Buzz's girlfriend because she's not, like, pretty, right?
Yep.
Or, like, that Hollywood version of pretty.
Yeah. And even those small moments of, like, nastiness, like when he sees a picture of the girlfriend, he's like, woof, or whatever. That's performance. That's taught behavior.
Yes.
It's not like he's a child. Somebody taught him to react that way to this thing. That's not an earnest reaction. He's performing for himself, really, that this is how I'm supposed to react to something like this. And it feels like, maybe it's the performance of Macaulay Culkin, but it feels performative. It does not feel like a real reaction to something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Can we talk about how brutal some of those
okay,
yeah. There's like at any given point those bandits were fucking dead.
You're so right. Half of these things would be near death sentences if
absolutely dead.
If instructed
iron from
the right
second
way.
story coming down and like conking you on the head, fucking dead.
Deadly.
Fucking dead.
And it's performed so well. I mean, granted, I will say,
oh my God,
comparatively,
yes.
the violence in this one is way better and more digestible and fun in a way that like violence can be because it's slapstick and sort of Three Stooges-esque. The next one, not even fucking close.
And I think
Jesus
the reason
Christ.
in this one that it works is because like a lot of the pranks that he's doing feel very earnest, and it doesn't feel like I'm gonna fucking murder you, right? Like it does feel very much for defense, but also like it feels like you said more slapstick, and I feel like those two actors just really do slapstick so well.
Oh my God.
The chemistry between the two of them just fucking wonderful. Like, and I think that that's a big reason why this works, because the second one didn't work because they were just trying to get people hurt, and like, I mean,
and literally for no reason.
And there's no chemistry between
there's
those
no
people.
chemistry. Yes,
at all.
It's really bad. I cannot wait to talk about it. I do, before we scooch into it, want to at least acknowledge this is another one of those moments for me as a child. I did not realize this. I had the biggest crush on Joe Pesci. I thought Joe Pesci was so handsome and so cool and so cute and so charming, even though he's a shitty guy. He's a bad guy. But Joe Pesci, like watching it back, I'm just like, yeah, I gravitate, like for some reason, I just gravitated towards him and his dumb face. And I realize, like in my little brain, like, oh, you liked him. You liked the way he looked. That's the reason you remember him so clearly. Joe Pesci. And it makes sense because I do think now as an adult person, he's very handsome. I think I have a big old crush on Joe Pesci in this. Cute as can be. So cute. But yeah, fun little early
I love that.
early gay fact. As a kid, I was very like, yeah, I like the way this guy looks.
So you were swooning over Pesci, and I was swooning over McCulkin.
Literally, I was a Pesci head. For sure. I mean, I didn't see My Cousin Vinny till I was an adult, but if I'd have seen My Cousin Vinny, I'm sure in the same way I would have been like, yeah, Pesci forever.
Okay.
Well, on that note, should we shift gears and talk about the next thing that we have on our agenda?
Let's.
Okay, perfect.
After being unemployed for several months, Jeff Mackenzie and his wife Pam decide to sell their house behind their kids' backs. During the open house, they meet a boy named Max and his mom. After a weirdly aggressive conversation about Frankenstein and some porcelain dolls Jeff found, Max and his mom go home to a house with super bad energy filled with a bunch of awful people. After being a turd himself, Max decides to watch Looney Tunes in the brand new BMW until he falls asleep. Back at the Mackenzie house, Jeff realizes that one of his dolls is worth over $200,000 and decides to sell it, only he can't find the doll and assumes that Max stole it. Then, in the dead of night, Jeff's brother and his family show up for no reason. But back to the doll plotline, though. After some internet sleuthing, Jeff finds the little boy's house, drives there, and asks about the doll, but is informed that they are all leaving for vacation and Max is already gone. But he has a plan.
He catches up with his wife at the senior home for their holiday bell recital, where he ruins the show by very publicly hatching a plan to break in and steal the doll while Max and his family are away on vacation. They try several times and fail. Insert Buzz from the first movie as a shitty, gross boy cop, and Pam flirting with him. Anyway, somehow Max overhears their plan to sell the doll and thinks they're going to sell him instead, so he lays a bunch of super deadly traps, and an awful, painful 30 minutes later, Pam and Jeff realize Max didn't have the doll, and everything was a big misunderstanding. They offer to take care of Max, letting him know he's safe now, and leave the house in shambles, as they offer to watch over him until his family come back from Tokyo. Oh. And the doll is found at the Mackenzie's house. 1 year later, they're all rich friends now. 1 year later, they're all rich friends now, and everything is water under the bridge. Happy Christmas because money. Yeah, could I literally that's the movie.
Best that I could do.
It's literally the film.
A fucking wild movie. This. Everything is bad and wrong about this. Literally everything. So the whole the main thing is, first of all, the kid is not even in this movie at all. Basically, this is a classic when there's a remake or a continuation, they just focus on the parents instead of the kids, who it's supposed to be about the whole time. This time they are focusing on this married couple who become the bandits because the dad lost his job, which I want to talk about him as a fucking asshole later. But dad lost his job. They're going to have to sell the house. They don't want their kids to know about it. So that's poverty is the whole reason that they even become bandits, right? But they're also just not good fucking people. And I feel no remorse for them either way. Sure, it sucks that you're gonna sell your house, but you're trying to do it behind your kids' backs. You're they don't take anything seriously. There isn't a moment where I'm absolutely, this is a family. The entire time I was watching this, I'm this is an incredibly bad movie. Not once was I sucked into this story. Ever.
It's hard because it is. I think I texted you this while I was watching it. It feels like they mushed two movies together, and we're jumping between the plots of each film without any cohesion because none of it really makes sense together. Mm-mm. The whole there's the family drama of them not having enough money and they have to sell the house behind the kids' backs. Then there's the Home Alone remake, which is the kid that gets left behind and his family goes to Japan. Those are two different movies, completely separate. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, we've smushed them together. So now the parents who have to save their house are the bandits, and this shitty rich kid who's a bit of a brat doesn't learn his lesson. And also, why should we care?
What lesson?
Literally, what lesson? Yeah. Why should we care? Because he's been in the movie for, 6 minutes. And suddenly it's I have to save my house. No, at this point in the film, you stole from the poor family. You stole their shit. That's what we're led to believe. Why are we in your corner? Also, this just makes me so mad when there's literally any answer besides the one that's given is the correct answer. These adults could just walk up and talk instead of whatever, somebody's there. Okay, be hey, we're here for these reasons. You took something from us. We want it back. Not around the boy, the doll. You took a doll from us. You were at our house. We know who you are. Mm-hmm. We need it back. You took it. And he's hey, I actually didn't take that. They're cool. We're going to be going then. End of movie. The end. But them doing this whole it's the boy, the I feel they're bending over backwards for plot. They're 100%. Literally doing the wackiest, zaniest, most outlandish, unrealistic, bad, silly, wrong things to make sure that the plot is barely held together. Barely.
Or like they want this one comedic moment, so they try really hard to like, to craft the whole fucking story around these like, oh, it felt like a lot of wouldn't it be funny if, or oh, this would be good. Oh, this would be good. Okay, how do we string them together? Okay, well, I mean, yeah, this kind of works. Like we could do that.
And I don't want to sound like an asshole, but that is sketch writing. And maybe that's why this was bad, because it's like SNL, like not to say that, because SNL folks are like, some people are good writers, but it did feel like a bunch of different fucking sketches with different jokes that they needed to throw in there. And they just poorly weaved those things together. Like, Jess, you're so right. It felt like sketch writing.
Disney could have gotten anybody for this. Fucking anybody. And they decided to go, like, to remake Home Alone, like, beloved classic, right? They had such an opportunity. And instead what they decided, yes, this is the script where we are going to turn these poor people into burglars and make them evil. And we're going to reinforce that because the rich people are going to be British. So you're going to, and I mean like McAllister McKinsey. Oh my God, we have to have that kind of fucking name in here. But it's going to be weird. It's going to be cool because we're going to focus on the bandits. But like, it's like funny, right? Because then we're going to see them like, and I'm just,
the thing is I feel like the whole point of this remake was to have an opinion that sort of commented on class, because the first one has everything to do with rich privilege, end of sentence. I feel like the intention was to be like, yeah, like what if in the holidays we have a rich family and a poor family, and it's like a conversation about class.
And the solution is wealth. The solution is at the end they become fucking rich, and then they're like, oh well, the doll paid off the mortgage and that's how we went to Europe and now we're rich friends, and ha ha ha, that paid for your chandelier. And I was like, I'm sorry, if I was this woman and these people broke into my fucking house to try to take something from my son, destroyed my entire home, I would sue them.
Same.
And I would never want to see them ever again in my entire life. Would I want to see these people?
It's also so strange, and I hate to continue to be just like an asshole about this movie. I feel like a movie that tried so hard to have this very specific narrative and point of view ended up having neither. There's no real story.
There's nothing.
And there's absolutely no point of view. Because at the end of the day, when they finally say the sentence, which you could have said step one with the family, whatever, I know they're busy. Hey, this is serious. Your kid stole some shit from me. Let's figure it out. You didn't say that. You're trying to like half tiptoe around the question, and suddenly it's like you're left, whatever, bullshit, bending over backwards again. At the end of all of that, after the fighting, the near-death experiences had by all, he didn't steal it. Mm-hmm. That's the big reveal. That's the big twist. He didn't steal the statue. It was just the nephew who's still at the house, who was in his room. Whoopsie. A big old oopsie daisy. The big reveal is we're building up to this big moment. It was a big oopsie daisy. JK LOL. Meaning none of it mattered. There is no lesson to be learned. Nothing changed. Except for now they're also rich. What is this movie? What's the point of this film?
And now what we're doing is we're vilifying the brother and his family, right? So the brother shows up in the middle of the night, which, like, fuck him for doing that. That's awful. But immediately, like, he's just being a jerk, where he's just, like, throwing snowballs. And, like, I'm like, I fucking hate this guy. His wife, we are supposed to laugh at, where she gets out of the
fucking problem with this.
She gets out of the car and she's like fucking like baby stepping because she has the highest of heels on in the fucking snow, and they like let it linger and they're like, oh my God, this bimbo is kind of like what it feels like. And then they bring her son, so of course it's her son who had the doll this whole time, and they're like, she's trying to teach her son Spanish, and she's like, everything about this woman they're trying to make it funny. And the whole time I'm like, she's fucking awesome, like look at this outfit, it's great. She like, the daughter likes this dress and they don't have the money, cool, she fucking bought it for her, great. She is showing up to every recital, everything for these kids. She's teaching her kid like different languages and all of this, and she looks fucking hot while she's doing it, and she's very yes and she's fucking there and she's in it. Like, fuck you for trying to make her look bad.
But the thing, and here's my issue, is big fat misogyny dipping its toe in here. The direction for that character was to make everything she did a comedic beat.
Yes,
like when
exactly.
Which is just misogyny.
Which is
like,
why
let's make
like,
her the butt of the joke when she's hot and sexy. Like, oh, she's sexy and stupid and can't walk. That's the joke. Okay, whatever. I mean, I expect no less from the director and writer of fucking Borat. Not to be a dick, but like, fuck that guy.
I mean,
fuck
that's who
stupid.
Disney decided. Oh, Borat guy. We want this guy to direct Home Alone, a kids thing.
When she starts speaking Spanish, which she's speaking Spanish, the way that she's doing it, she's trying to do like a dumb like English accent,
right?
And that's supposed to be funny, but it's like I don't see any other bilingual people in the room.
Absolutely.
Like I see nobody else. And then again, when she's buying the coat, she's like.
She's the one character of color aside from the realtor, right? And so I'm just like, cool, we're doing this because she is an outsider in literally every way, and we're making that known. Like, that is so fucked. And like, I hated that all of this was supposed to be a comedic beat, because like I looked at her and I was like, she is literally doing everything right. She is doing so much. She is going above and beyond. And the way that she's written in this is just to be the butt of the joke.
I mean, she's better than all these other fucking parents. Like these parents like I understand not putting money stuff in front of your kids, but I feel like they are the dopiest, worst. Like I would not trust them with a fucking egg.
They're only in it for
my God.
They're in the movie for 30 seconds, literally.
Oh no, I mean Rob Delaney and Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, the parents. You mean the
main parents?
Oh, okay.
I mean them.
I thought you meant the kids. I was like, well, the only kid that we really get to see in here is Max, and it's for 5 minutes.
I mean them. I'm like, what are these parents doing? They're bad. They're like,
oh, they're awful.
They're doing making the worst possible decisions, endangering, like they're bad people. They're dumb and bad, and it's supposed to be passed off as like, but we're just silly, and it's a misunderstanding.
They break into that black family's home.
And that's supposed to be like a funny beat,
and that's supposed to be funny. He farts in his wife's face, and that's supposed to be funny. Like that is what we decided to do. Like we decided to go that fucking far.
It's not good. It's not a good movie. And I really struck my big note here. First and foremost, we're like 30 minutes into the segment. I love Rob Delaney. I think he is so funny and so charming and so cool. I like a lot of the stuff that he's done. I think he's very great. He was really bad in this. Almost everybody in this was terrible. And I think that has to do with the script and the directing. I think these are good actors. These are good character actors. Like they know what to do. They were not given much, and they were guided even less. I wrote here that this movie is all money, no vision.
100%.
They had a ton of money to back this thing and to get it made, but it had literally nothing to say about anything. Even when it got to a point where maybe they're going to say something about class, it's a big mix-em-up. Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess we're not going to talk about that anymore.
Cool. So the rich person isn't actually to blame for taking away from the poors. It's just misplaced this. Maybe if you like had better like control over your assets, then maybe you wouldn't be in this position that you're in.
Exactly. And that's the big takeaway, which makes what a problem.
Also, like, they're making the poor family seem even worse because, first of all, the dad is an asshole, and he is actually incarnate, right? Like, where he's like, well, actually, like, the school is really bad. There's metal detectors. And, well, actually, Frankenstein was the doctor, not the monster. Like, he's just fucking... Every time he was on screen, I was like, fuck this guy. And they're in this situation because he lost his job, right? And he was a data migration manager. And he's like, fuck the cloud. It's all fucking the cloud. Fuck this. And I'm like, okay, boomer. Like, okay. Yeah. And there's several things that he does in this where he's talking, like, I mean, if he worked in data and tech, don't make any fucking sense when he's like, he doesn't know how to clear his search history online, and you're like, okay, that's bullshit. Like, and
Again, it's the wrong choices. It feels so unreal.
100%. Like, I don't understand, like, because, like, he clearly is in the data sector. Great, awesome, cool. But, like, then it makes him look lazy, right? Because being the poor family, right? He has this job. It's no longer relevant. But he's trying, but he doesn't want to change. And he doesn't want to do all this. He's not adaptable. Like, it, to me, just felt like very, like, it felt like a big old fucking punch down. And I fucking hated it. I fucking hated it so bad.
Even the moments when they're trying to like comment on the narrative that they're trying to spin, I wrote this down just because it's bad and it's such a throwaway and it's a way to excuse bad writing. I forget the context, but one of the rich people, of the plethora of them in this, says, "Rich people, am I right? We're the worst." Okay.
Yeah,
what?
There's these moments where it tries to be so like so self-aware, right? Even where like it's talking about a remake where it's like the space remake of the movie from the first one, where it's like they're like some Star Wars like crossover type thing, right? And they're like, "Oh my god, remakes never as good as the original." And it's like, yeah, because you clearly put no fucking effort. If you're going to go that route, put this in space. Do Home Alone in space. Give me some of this. Don't give me this garbage.
And
the
thing that's wrong, the main thing is it's again, and I hate that I keep saying this, but there's no fucking point of view. This movie says nothing, does nothing, and nothing has changed. Nobody and nothing has changed in this movie. It has nothing to say. This movie simply wasted my time.
And this movie, it's the exact opposite in every way of the first one, where we talked about intent and we talked about how the world building and like the letting kids be smart and everything. Like, this suffers from a lot of things that remakes suffer from half the time, right? That we talk about, where it's just like, it's just noise, or it's like, it's not done well, or it's like, it says fucking nothing. But not only that, like, this is one of those movies where it's like, oh, here, kids, here's like a thing. And it's so zany and silly. And oh my God, people, ha 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 ha. But it treats the children like they're unintelligent. We don't ever see, in the first one, we saw Kevin be intelligent. We saw him take ownership of things. And in this one, he's just a little shit the whole fucking time. And I have no remorse for him. And I'm like, this is who children are supposed to be relating to. Like, what are we saying? Like, he's never once given like autonomy or given like the benefit of the doubt in like being smart or having agency, right? He just is. And I'm like, it's so bad.
The whole point too is like, we have to identify with this kid. With Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin, we got it. He's misunderstood. Like we said, we see the way he's treated, and the moment he says, "I wish my family didn't exist," we're with him. Mm-hmm. We get it. We understand. We're already in his corner. They did such a good job at getting us behind this lead character who we're supposed to care about and follow. Who the fuck is this kid?
One of his big lines.
They've told us nothing, and there's nothing about him apart from brattiness, wealth, and privilege. So what are we to care about? They've done nothing to earn our trust in following this person. What have they done that's good? Who are they and why do I care? I don't.
One of the kids' big lines is, oh, they're very proud of this, when he's throwing the sodas and the Mentos over at Kimmy Schmidt, right? He's like throwing it over. And
what's her name? I'm going to look up her name. I feel so bad just being like...
Pam. But like
Pam, yeah.
So he's throwing those over and she's like, "Oh my God, how much soda do you have?" And he's like, "My parents buy in bulk. It's more cost effective." And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Can we talk about the severity of the traps in this one?
Yes.
And how absolutely unfun they were. Like,
they were
at least in the first
gross.
One, there's a childlike DIY ethos to it that feels so like of world and kind of charismatic and like fun. He's like,
or even
MacGyver,
a little bit.
He's doing it. And it's also not as dangerous. Like, yes, this is gonna knock these guys out. Like, it's gonna hurt them, but
Like this he saw in Looney Tunes or something, right? This he saw on TV, or like some of the pranks were even just like really silly. Like he put down a couple of Legos or a couple of ornaments, or he like put feathered. Some glue on the saran wrap and threw some feathers. Like some of it was so cute and so zany.
And it made sense. It made sense because he could have seen it in cartoons. He could have seen it on TV.
And you're like, absolutely, there's an iron in this house. Absolutely, there's Legos here. Absolutely, like there are all of these things, and they feel. It doesn't feel like anything remarkable or like unique.
But in this one, there's a fool lighting somebody on fucking fire, shooting pool balls out of a t-shirt cannon directly at somebody's face. There is a semi-automatic Nerf gun with fucking tacks sticking out of the tips of the bullets.
Were those tacks?
They were tacks.
Jesus Christ.
It was like thumbtacks pressed in on the plastic or the rubber end of the bullet.
Insidious.
And it doesn't, like, to me, that's not heightening stakes. That's just unfunny.
And he watered the street so they would crash into a fucking pole or a house or something. Like, he is trying to fucking murder these people.
He's trying to kill them. It's so clear he's trying to kill them. And it's also like, it doesn't make sense. And because it doesn't make sense, the unfunny severity of this, it's not just like, it's to a point to me where like, say like on The Simpsons, you know how the Itchy and Scratchy show is supposed to be this like commentary, it's sort of a satire on the idea of slapstick cartoony humor, and its grotesque aspect is what makes it funny. Like, oh yeah, because shows do like wacky shit. This is the not in on the joke, unfunny, similar aspect of this. Like, he's trying to kill these people.
And there's no, like, it doesn't feel slapstick at all because nobody has any sort of charisma and nobody's playing off of each other.
It's not
they
fun.
They fell down the stairs about 28 times.
He's launching kettlebells off of the fucking treadmill at their heads.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is like, and I just... Maybe I just don't like the movie, and that's painting my view of these antics.
I think you're right. These are, like, actually really fucking sinister and have no innocence to them.
And on top of that, like, what did this family do? Be poor? Like, the only thing they've done so far that we're being told is bad is being impoverished, which, again, poorly written. But now we're supposed to revel in the comedy of their pain because they're poor. Like,
and it was all unnecessary because they just lost their asset literally at their own house, and the dad couldn't get a job
because it was a little mix 'em up.
So once he has a job, and once he has a job, once he has the money, he's able to get a job, and once he has, so it's like, because even the commentary that you're doing, I don't think you're doing the commentary you think you're doing.
Not at all. And at least in the first one, we're rooting for Kevin, not only because we've been shown that he's our guy. He's our character. Like, he is misunderstood. He is treated poorly. We are on his team. So when these literal burglars are trying to break in and hurt him, he's a child, these bad people, of course when the paint can falls, we're going to be like, yes, fuck yeah, get him. Heat that fucking doorknob up. I'm so into this.
And everything is to defend his house, not to fucking hurt somebody.
And
he's like, hey, don't come up here. I'm going to do this.
The gun's a pellet gun. It's a pellet gun, too.
Yeah.
And exactly. And he's warning them, like, if you come up here, it's going to be an issue. Stay away from me. Do not come near. And they're like, okay, fuck you. You're a kid. He's like, okay, I told you. Boom.
And then
it's all in self-defense.
I wonder how much of this kid, Max, like, is because he just, like, nobody, like, everybody in his family is shit. Like, everybody in that fucking house is, oh my God, just absolutely trash. But he, like, nobody's listening to him. So he goes, like, into the car to the BMW, the shiny new BMW that we see, right, with the, fully automatic entertainment system in the back or whatever. But, like, he goes in there and he watches Looney Tunes, which is an incredible, like, we've talked about how violent the Looney Tunes are, right? And he's laughing at that. And with the context of what he does later on, I'm wondering if he was imagining, like, his own family getting hurt. Because he's fucking twisted.
He's a little bit of a messy character. And again, this movie doesn't give space to anybody. So there's no way to really, like, analyze any of that subtext because also this movie has no subtext.
Also,
but
he had those weird fantasies, right? Which is fucking wild and like did not fit the thing. But remember when he goes to the church and he tries to take toys that are meant for like the toys for tots or the less privileged, and he's like, I lost my parents, and
I literally was gonna bring this in when we were talking about him earlier. Oh my God. He was initially unlikable. He's done nothing. You've shown us nothing of this character to make us like him. But then suddenly it's funny because like this rich kid got left home alone and he's trying to steal from a toy drive for impoverished youth. And that's just funny.
And then he's like
this is funny.
Fuck
this kid.
Mackenzie kid comes out and is like, oh, that's really rough. You deserve this toy. Right? Like, so he's like the poor kid.
He's rewarded.
Who like is not going to get any toys for Christmas is like telling the because he's listening to the rich kid sob story, like, oh, here, take this, you deserve this. Like,
and here's the thing is like that was intentional. That was a scene that was written to establish a point. But they never explain the point of view. They never get there. And the moment where they should get to the conversation about class and about privilege, which is what this movie seems to be trying to do, they say, whoopsie daisy, no one's at fault. And that big whoopsie daisy makes me so mad. It makes me irate because it's literally like at the end of a movie, which some of these stories do it well, but it's like writing this whole movie and then the character waking up and being like, just kidding, it was a dream. None of that's real. And there's no real consequence. And you're like, well, okay, but like there was no point to it. If there's a point to it, it would make sense, like the dream, whatever. But there's nothing. This movie is nothing.
Their point was everything's okay as long as you're rich.
Yeah, that was the point.
Like I could fucking not believe that the toy was, I mean, I knew it was going to happen, that the toy was in their house and stuff. I fucking knew it. But then I could not believe that they did it 1 year later when it's like, oh, look, everything is wonderful now because we have money and we're best friends with our rich friends because they have money.
We do not need an epilogue. Why? Like,
and
at least with an epilogue, something's changed. And so we're seeing that changed universe later. But with this, nothing changed except they got money, which seems to be the opposite of what they were trying to say. But again, we don't know what they were trying to say because it wasn't told to us.
I did half expect the mom to come back and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I feel so bad for you. Or the brother to be like, oh, you're clearly struggling. Here, let me help out. I expected somebody to give them money. Like, I'm very surprised that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing else to say about this.
I
don't watch it. Or if you watch it ironically and just get like...
It's honestly a great background movie for the holidays. Like,
no, it's not.
Well, I guess it's not. Like, it's not. It's just not a good movie.
Just don't watch it.
What a shame.
Yeah, just real bad.
Damn. We're back. We've made it back. We've arrived back home. Here we are. Hello.
Eric.
Yes.
The original Home Alone. Who
Yes.
did you think it was for?
That's a great question. My real answer is for Macaulay Culkin's career, because what an absolute rocket launch for that person.
Truly.
My fun answer is for John Hughes's auteurship and the city of Chicago. Because, I mean, what an iconic Chicago film. I mean, Little Nero's Pizza, it's not real, but hey, love Little Nero's. Everything about it, big Chicago, the O'Hare airport shit, like Chicago. And, I mean, John Hughes, boom. What do you say? But really, Macaulay Culkin, rocket to the moon.
I'm gonna say it was for John Candy, who always wanted to be the devil in something, but like not actually. So he totally shipped that whole. He probably also worked on that line, like, I'll sell myself for the devil, and he's like, oh, here, wouldn't this be fun? Like, oh my god, wouldn't this be fun? Like, so he kind of crafted that narrative himself, like after reading the script and realizing, like, oh my gosh, there's just so much here. Like, I mean, we really could be the angel and the devil and the thing, and like, so this is for him and for that whole extra level that he brought to this film. Did you like it?
I did like it. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's very well written. I think the characters are interesting, i.e. Catherine O'Hara and Macaulay Culkin. Interesting conversation about money, the power of money, and love of being seen and being considered. Like, there's just a lot there. We talked about it. I love it. I think it's a great movie. What do you think? Did you like it?
I love this movie. Like, I liked it beforehand. I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But like, really after, and this is the case so often with like movies that we watch, where I'm either like, I loved it before and now I fucking hate it, or like I thought it was okay before and now I love this movie so much more for all of the intent and for really all of the reasons that we talked about. Like, just, I am so blown away because I did not realize how fucking good that writing is and how intentional, and what a treat of a film.
What a treat. What a treat. Treat. What a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Classic.
So good.
It's one of those movies where like sometimes a classic, it's like, oh, why is this a classic? It's a classic.
Chinatown.
It makes sense. I know why it is. Yes. Perfect holiday film.
Yes. Incredible. Now, let's get into
our favorite version of the story.
Our total favorite version.
Yes.
Home Sweet Home Alone.
Yes.
Was it new, interesting, or the same, or progressive, regressive? Where are we falling with that?
It was new. Technically, it was new. It was interesting for all of the wrong reasons. Interesting in the way that they did not really tell a story and did not have a point of view. Nowhere at all, apart from namesake alone. Even then, what the fuck does Home Sweet Home Alone even mean?
Oh,
it does nothing with the title. It says nothing about this new version of it. It's just a play on words, which, okay, similarly to this movie, has no point of view. So with that said, it wasn't even close to the same. Couldn't have been further from the original text. I thought it was regressive, literally in every aspect, in the way that they viewed women, in its sort of just embedded misogyny, in the way that it was money over everything, without any sort of comment on it or without any sort of justification for it. Bad, dumb, not good. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was new. I think it was uninteresting.
Yeah.
And I think it was uninteresting because it tried to be both the same and new. Where it's like, okay, we have these beats that we need to follow, right? Like we know that the third act is going to be a bunch of traps and this. Okay, cool. Let's do that. But how are we going to get here? Oh, well, let's make it interesting. Maybe this time we'll center the bandits, right? And maybe this time we're going to, so it felt like a lot of, oh, maybe this time, like a lot of that. But it was just really uninteresting and really fucking regressive for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, the misogyny in this was really awful. The treatment of people of color in this was really awful, where the first one did not have even one person of color.
We didn't even talk about that. It's a very white movie.
It was a very fucking white movie. But
for a movie placed in Chicago, that movie is white.
Yes. And then in this one, they're just literally like the butt of every joke.
Yeah.
And it felt very icky. It felt gross. Even the pranks and stuff like that, all of that felt so gross. I was like, somebody's going to die. Like in the first one, I was like, oh my God. Like I was laughing, but I was like, okay, but like really that person would die, like iron to the face. But this one, it's like, no, they are going to get murdered. Like if that one of those dumbbells hit her from the treadmill, I was like, that's it. She's fucking done.
Death. It's literally a death sentence.
And yeah, it was just not fun at all. It was very okay boomery. It was very it was just not fun at all. And I don't know who this I guess this goes into the next one. I don't know who the fuck this is for.
Yeah,
I don't
literally
know who they tried to make this for. I mean, the real answer is it's a cash grab, right? It's like Disney saying, yes, money, 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 give me money, money, money. But truly, this is not for anybody, because there's Literally nothing. It is not for, because like at first you're like, okay, is it for the parents? Is it for parents? Like trying to like, you know, like talk about wealth and all this other stuff. It's because I mean the first one was for kids, right? It was like
it was centered around a kid. We're supposed to empathize and follow him, his story. Yeah.
And this one was like, I just don't know. I don't know who they had in mind for this one because it literally says nothing and speaks to no one and speaks to nobody's experience.
Because of zero point of view, there's not a single person it's intended to be for because it does not have an opinion. Like it's for nobody. You're right. It's for nobody.
Okay, but who's the fun one that we're going to say this is for?
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I'm going to say that this was just so everybody could like
pay the bills.
Make a paycheck. I'm going to say that this is for
it is for the bank accounts of all involved.
Yes. They don't claim this on their IMDb if you look at it. I mean, like this is like...
Is that true?
No, but I want it to be.
Oh my God, wait. Cuz that would be iconic. That would actually make me like this movie.
Oh my God.
If they all like a lot of them clearly were like please don't put this on my IMDb. What if, Jess?
What if? I know.
That would be so fun.
That would save it for me. What about you? Who do you think it was for? The fun one, not the real one, because that's too depressing.
I don't know if I have a fun one.
That's okay.
It was to... Okay, here's one. Let me make sure that this is the right person. Yes, it is. Okay. It is to rehabilitate Archie Yates's career from Nazi to child.
Oh my God.
Because he was in Jojo Rabbit.
Was he? I didn't see that.
He was one of the kids in Jojo Rabbit. And I don't think he was a sympathizer, but part of his character was like, hey, maybe they're right. And no. And that's the only thing I know him from. So I'm going to make a joke and say it's to rehabilitate his image in the public discourse.
And just make him a shitty kid.
Well, that's also the thing is, I mean, it's better than a Nazi.
I mean,
it's better than a Nazi.
Quite true.
So that's my fun answer.
So the final question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Did you like it?
God, what if I just switched it up and was like, yes. No, I think it will go down, at least for me on this podcast, as one of the worst movies that we've watched, unfortunately. Because again, I want to like it on paper with the people. I do like who's a part of this project. But it is abjectly one of the worst movies we've had to endure for this podcast. So no, I a strong disagree with this movie as a whole. Collectively, I disagree with everything that they did, and I dislike it very strongly. What do you think? Did you like it?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was so well put together and so relatable. No, I fucking hated this movie. Like, I cannot honestly imagine anybody in the entire world liking this movie.
Yeah.
This is one of the worst movies that I've not like. Again, I was
bad.
Like, it cannot be Jingle All the Way too bad, right? Especially looking at the cast and all of that, right? And it was just like, you know, Christmas wanted to be like, oh, you thought, right? And it's like, fuck! Like, because it is so incredibly bad. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, period. Do not waste your time on this pile of steaming hot garbage.
It's so weird and bad. It's such a weird and bad film.
Weird and bad.
It's weird and bad. Like, it's not even charming. Like,
no.
At least if it was charming, I'd be like, well, it's charming, but it sucks. But, like, it's just weird, and the beats are so odd, and the characters are, like, not directed. The characters are just fucking doing whatever they want to. It is not cohesive. Nothing makes sense. No point of view. Who are we rooting for? We don't know. And then at the end of the day, it's everybody and nobody at the same time. What is this film?
This is why it took me 4 fucking hours to finish a 90-minute movie, because I was like, oh my God, no, they didn't. And I had to walk away so many times because you know what? This movie was not just not for me. It was not for anybody.
And I'll say this. as a collective, and I feel like I don't want to speak for you, but maybe you'll agree.
I mean, you can speak for me. It's fine.
All we want for Christmas is a better remake to a good franchise. Better than this. Because Home Alone 1 and 2 are pretty fucking good. Classic staples. They really did a lot for cinema history and for us. This movie does nothing. We don't need it. I mean, we don't need any of these remakes, and that's the whole point of nostalgia. We don't need it, but it'd be nice. And this movie didn't do the job. So, hey, I don't know.
But that's why you love us and you keep coming to us. So we watch the things and we can tell you if it's actually worth it. And
as long as they keep doing these remakes, we keep doing this podcast.
And they just keep coming out with more all the time.
It really is so nice. Like every time they announce something new, I'm like, cool, perfect.
Yeah, yes. Before I was like, oh my God, are they fucking really? And now I'm like, oh yes, incredible.
Perfect.
Please
line it up. We'll put it on the board.
If you, listener, have a suggestion or something that you would like to hear us review, please email us at NOTstalgiapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can message us on social media. We have a Twitter. We're not really active on it, but we are active on our Instagram. And eventually we'll be active on our TikTok. But we get all the messages. So let us know. We really do love listener requests because most of the time it's us being like, oh, this is a remake. Oh, this is coming out. Let's do this right now. But it's also, it is such a treat when somebody suggests something because we love it.
Yeah. And what a privilege to be in a position where like, somebody's listening to our opinions, which A, is really nice and cool of you, but secondly, what a joy. You're consuming something we made earnestly and you enjoy it to some degree. Like, wow, what a privilege for us. Like, how cool is that to be in a position where that is the case? So for that reason, when you send emails asking us to do something, it's a treat. We feel so privileged to be able to like talk to you sort of about these things. And we want your input and we love it. We love it. So please do it more and we will do them 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. We love you so much. We appreciate you so much. And we hope you have a very happy holiday season.
A happy holiday season.
A happy New Year.
A happy New Year even.
I mean, New Year, new you, or same you. I mean, like, whatever you need, really. Get it.
Live your life. And you know what? There's going to be a lot of downtime in this area for many people. So please, in that time, do not forget to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on social media. We love your attention.
We love to feel special.
Yeah.
Anyways, artwork and music is by Eric Lefebvre, editing by Danny Barkley, and thank you again for listening, and thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Jess.
And remember, stay cute.
And stay critical.
Bye.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye. This podcast has been brought to you by the NOTstalgia Network.
Visit thenotStalgiaNetwork.com for more.
You enter the dungeon and see the evil wizard pointing his wand directly at you. He says, "Show me a funny and delightful actual play Dungeons & Dragons podcast, or I'll consume your souls!" What do?
I take out my phone and find Quest Friends Forever on Spotify.
I show him how to find Quest Friends Forever on Apple Podcasts.
I share the Quest Friends Forever Instagram and YouTube pages with him.
And you all get critical hits!
Yay!
Quest Friends Forever is an actual play podcast starring 4 friends with varying levels of Dungeons & Dragons experience. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday as we embark on fantasy adventures, play fast and loose with the rules, and laugh at each other's shenanigans. No prior D&D knowledge is required to listen, so everyone can feel free to join the fun. Quest Friends 4, that's the number 4, like how there's 4 of us, ever. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That's Quest Friends Forever.